brief introduction of our panel today. We have a human resource professional with over 15 years experience in the aviation industry. She was the head of HR at Airpeace Limited, an organization she joined from inception. She was responsible for its rapid growth within the aviation sector. She also had a stint with Virgin Nigeria and Greater Washington Limited. So we see she has vast experience in the aviation industry, which is a highly process-driven and technical-driven industry. We have Mrs. Bunmi Akano.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you doing, Yomi?
Yes, we're great, we're fine. We also have with us the CEO of Career Transitioners UK. He's also the founder of a learning management solution provider, which is LearnFlow. He has over 20 years experience in learning and development, both as an independent consultant and a training professional within various sectors. He's been involved in deploying learning solutions to senior professionals on a global scale. And we have here Tolu Fagbola with us. Welcome, Mr. Fagbola.
Thanks so much, Yomi.
Tolu.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, Tolu.
Good to be here. Yeah. Hi, Emmanuel. Good to be here.
If you've been following innovation trends, you realize a lot has been happening in the finance industry space in terms of innovation and fintechs. And it's on this note that we also had to bring on board somebody in that field. He's a human resource professional with over 20 years management experience across industry verticals, which includes Axion Microfinance Bank, Africa Sun, Starwood Hotels and Resorts. He's a globally certified HR practitioner, and his contribution to the global HR community has resulted in several recognition awards. For instance, he was recognized in 100 most influential global HR leaders in 2018, and also 101 global HR heroes 2019 awards. It's a big honor to have Mr. Emmanuel Michael with us. Welcome, Emmanuel.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah. So
Good afternoon, Emmanuel.
Right before we start, our session is split into 3 segments, where I'll be asking individual questions to the panel members, and I'll also ask a general question to the panel members, and also take questions from the audience. To our audience, please drop your questions in the Q&A box, which you will see below your screen. All right, so going into the details of this program, and I will start with Bunmi Akano. So we've spoken a lot about technology trends, but from your own experience, what would you say is the way forward for HR? What new approaches are we to take to ensure that HR keeps up with the change based on this pandemic?
All right, thank you so much, Yomi, for having me. It's great to be here. I think what the experience of COVID did for everyone, and HR in particular, was that, change can come upon us, and it can come upon us very quickly and rapidly. And previous trends that we were not very quick to embrace previously, we had to, just embrace them immediately so that the business could continue to run. I have worked in the aviation industry majorly, and I'm sure we all know that industry completely shut down. There's just nothing going on. The flights are not moving. Some other organizations are working, they're working remotely, some are working half and half, and some are working full time. I think for every HR professional right now, if you are not agile, if you are not nimble, if you are not quick thinking, if you are not able to, you need to be quick thinking, agile, nimble. You need to be able to, this is the time for that, multi-skill and almost being in that space where you are wearing 1,000,001 hats, various hats. HR and the CTO, the chief technology officer right now, need to have this relationship that must, influence the business for the future, because the business of the future is going to be mostly digital. I'm not saying that we're not still going to have our physical office spaces, and we're still not going to have some of those traditional styles, existing, but there's going to be a lot that will change, and it takes that HR professional to actually project into the future, to see the business in the future, and to prepare the business for the future. So this is not the time for all that administrative thing that we like to do a lot in HR. Some of us sort of get carried away with admin and operations, and that is fine. But more than ever before, we must look at integrating our HR processes and our business processes with technology to ensure, that we have more efficient process. So, that would be my answer to that question.
Yes, definitely. We know, based on your experience, aviation industry is highly process-driven and technical environment. So definitely, you see all of this dynamics laid out. So going to Tolu Fagbola. A part of your profile says you have a doctorate in education, and also you've developed a series of learning platforms. What stimulated your passion for learning and technology?
Hi, Yomi. Thank you so much for that question. So I probably want to take you back a little bit to the early stage of my career. I started my career in telecoms about 17 years ago. In training and development, I was delivering induction training, soft skills training, customer service training. And it got to a point where I got scared that technology was going to come and take my job away. I literally imagined robots standing in front of people and delivering training. So at that point, I thought, okay, I need to do something about my career. I need to sort of get clear about where my career needed to go. So I sort of did a program on education technology and e-learning, and did some research. And then I got brave. I got involved with a tech company that delivered learning management systems. So I came to Nigeria. I went to Nigeria, helped some banks implement learning management systems. And this is about 12 years ago. So about 12 years ago, helped a couple of banks implement learning management systems and learning content. And from that point on, I kind of got a passion for learning technologies in particular. So working with a Disney developer, working with voiceover artists, software developers. And I kind of saw a lot of organizations suffer due to lack of knowledge and getting ripped off, especially in the early days. So the amount of money organizations will pay for a learning management system was astronomical. It was horrible. So I needed to sort of do something about it. So being a trainer and delivering training day to day, and being involved in technology, that's kind of how I got into it. And I did an MSc in organizational psychology, so I had a background in organizational change. So I helped organizations from that point on implement learning solutions across both the UK and in Nigeria as well. So on a personal note, it was really a desire to upskill, develop my own personal career that got me into doing more study and continuing to implement learning solutions for organizations globally.
All right. So I'll come back to you on I have quite a few questions around the advanced technology, because it's a space which you actually operate in. Just before that, Emmanuel, based on your industry, what role do you think data science? Because I know in the finance space, data is, in fact, generally, data is the new oil, and we are heavily reliant on data. So what role do you think data science will play in designing how we engage our workforce to achieve our company's objectives?
Okay, thank you very much, Yomi, for that question. I'm not a data scientist, by the way. Okay, well, let me attempt to answer that question. So what data science will do for the financial service industry, especially, is to enable us to be able to gather the various data points that are relevant in decision making. So for you to be able to make appropriate decisions, say you want to grant credit, you need data, okay, to be able to do that. And then in terms of hiring, for you to be able to project the type of candidates that will fit the profile for what is going on right now, as we all know, this particular period, has made it absolutely necessary for us to hire candidates that are resilient in their effort to be able to deliver. So we need people who can actually show that resilience when it comes to facing challenges and in overcoming all the problems that the current new normal has brought to us. So data scientists will be very critical. They will help us gather the different type of data that we need in terms of hiring, in terms of measuring productivity for people within the organization. How do you match productivity to the growth of the business, to the turnover of the business? There is need for us to begin to compare the information that is available and then be able to project, okay? So without data, it makes it difficult for you to project trends and then be able to take decisions, because what is happening now is that we take decisions as we go. So you need to have a portal or a platform by which you can begin to bring in, feed in the type of information of what is going on and begin to make sense out of it. So this is why data science is critical this particular time. This is not the time whereby we make decisions just by the thumb of rule or maybe by intuition. No, you need to have sufficient information which you can analyze, deep dive into it, and then crunch it and come up with something that will help your organization to thrive during this particular period, because several organizations are beginning to crumble because they don't understand what is going on. Okay, so you can only understand what is going on if you have someone who is able to bring all these data points together and then make sense out of it. So data science at this particular period is very, very critical if any organization is to excel or to get out of the woods, to find the right direction, the right path for them to begin to move their business. And then it also helps you to be able to analyze exactly what is going on within the sector, what your peers are also doing, okay? And see, for those who have tried out something, did they succeed? Did they fail? You also begin to learn from their failures and begin to also adjust your own practices to ensure that you're able to succeed. So say for instance, employees are working for you, you need data to be able to know which among employees today, which of them are actually going to stay, how are they faring, okay? Today we have technology tools that are available that will help you, just like the way we are on this Zoom call. Based on my facial expression, the system is able to tell you that Emmanuel is well, is good, or something is really wrong with Emmanuel. And then you begin to see what can we do to make sure we get Emmanuel engaged. Okay, so these are some of the things that data will help us do. Thank you.
Wow, you could pass for a data scientist, honestly, with everything you just said within that space of time. Right before I go to Bunmi, I see a question in Q&A section, but please, when asking the questions, I need to know who to direct that question to. Else I'll just be, asking the wrong person the question. So probably if you could just state who that question is directed to, so I can channel it appropriately. Bunmi, let's talk about remote work.
Okay.
About remote work. In fact, over the last 48, not just the last 48 hours, but since this pandemic started, remote work has been the norm. So where you have two categories of workers. And we see in our environment, in Nigerian environment, there's a lot of emphasis on FaceTime. Within FaceTime means productivity. So would you say remote work is sustainable in our local context? And what tools can support the process?
I think it is sustainable, but I also think that it's going to take us some time to get there, because the real life indices happening right now in our local context, just like you've said, is that more organizations will prefer that, oh, you come, let me see you, come to the office, be present, as against continuous remote work. So that is where, HR has to be able to tie productivity, to productivity to performance, really. It's based on the employees' deliverables, and that deliverable has been done, regardless of where the person was when the person did it. So when the employee did it. So like I said earlier on, for some certain roles, you need to be physically present. So for example, an engineer, for example, has to be physically present. A pilot, for example, has to be physically present. Somebody that is operating a machinery, that is packaging food, has to be physically present. But for some other roles that can deliver regardless of their location, I think that remote working is sustainable and can work. But we need to be able to convince our individual businesses as HR professionals how these employees are productive regardless of where they are. So they don't have to really come. And I mean, a lot of companies still got a lot of work done, and are still getting work done with remote working. Tons and tons of meetings have been had. I mean, international conferences are even occurring. We've had this conference from Fifth Quadrant, for example, happening over 48 hours online, and you've hosted thousands of participants, and there has been value exchange, regardless of the fact that we all didn't come into a room, to listen to these various speakers speak. I listened to the MD of NU. It was even in Ibadan. People can be anywhere, anywhere in the world. I don't know where Michael is. I don't know where Tolu is. Tolu is somewhere in London, I think. So, so if we can do this, for example, and do this successfully, why not? Why can't we work, without having to be physically present at work? And just like Corona embraced us, sort of shocked us into this reality, I think that, it will be suicidal for any organization, to go back to the old way of doing things when perhaps a vaccine has been found and Corona has been completely obliterated from the earth. The lesson has to remain, because we continue. The lesson from Corona and what we have learned from it, how better to do our business online, must continue. So yes, it is sustainable, but we must continue the conversation and convince management about employee productivity regardless of their location. I think some of the tools, there are various tools that can help, to enhance remote working. Of course, great internet. I think internet in Nigeria can still be improved, but it's getting better. We'll look at remote desktop softwares, team chatting apps, screen sharing software, video conferencing tools, things like to-do list apps are also very good. Screen sharing, okay, I spoke about screen sharing, video recording as well, because you can have a meeting that you would want to share with some others, project management software, there's so many others, and security is also very, very important. So you also need very great security to sort of protect all your data and your information. So I really, really agree, and I support the fact that remote working is here to stay. We shouldn't do away with it. Now that it has come and we have done this, successfully for about 3 months now, we should continue, it as we go along. But it might be gradual. It might not be completely embraced all at once, especially when Corona goes. Thank you.
Yeah. So there's a discussion came up in yesterday's session, which we had with Dr. Undoka Koiso, where we talked about remote work and, its impact on learning. But I'll come to the learning section with Tolu. But let me go to Emmanuel. I'm still on the remote work itself, because I know in your space, I'm really wowed by, how the advancement within your industry. But what strategies, Emmanuel, or tools can organizations adopt to manage the expectations that come with remote work?
Okay, so remote work is driven largely by technology, okay? And so for any organization to be successful in implementing remote working, especially in the financial services space, technology is critical, okay? So you see that before now, yes, we have some form of technology available for customers and employees to, I think before now, the focus more was on how to serve the customers remotely, okay? But the employees now have to come into the office to be able to deliver that particular service. So what is going on now is that because of this lockdown and the need for us to ensure that employees are safe, we're beginning to activate processes or systems where that will enable employees to work from home. So they need now to ensure that you have VPN in place because security is also critical. You're in the financial services sector. You don't want people just gaining access to your core banking software anyhow and then breaking in and things are happening. So you need to ensure that whoever is coming into the system is coming in through via a secure channel, to access the system. So technology is one key thing. Then the other organizations also need to look at is the employees who are working from home. How do you support them to ensure that where they are working from is actually conducive? Okay. Recently, I was reading about a court case somewhere, I think in Europe, where an employee had to sue the company to ask the company to contribute to paying their rent because they were working from home. So organizations need to also look at how do we support employees who will be working remotely. Twitter on their own had made it an option that anyone who wants to work from home, it's not compulsory, but if you want to work from home, you are able to work from home. I think I saw either Google also made provision to pay a certain amount of money, to their employees so that to support them because they are working from home. So any organization that decides to adopt this remote working need to ensure that one, that the technology is working very well, two, that they also have a plan to be able to support those who will be working from home because the home now has become an extension of the workplace. It therefore means that if the employee has an accident while working from home, the company is responsible. So you need to ensure that those safety measures that you are putting while they work from the office is also available for these employees when they work from home. So safety, technology is key. And as we all know, the challenge in Nigeria is infrastructure. So how do you ensure that they have the necessary tools, data, laptops for them to work with? For those who don't have laptop, maybe they use desktop in their office, then you need to enable them. Maybe you also need to enable some of the apps that they will use, collaborative tools that they need to use to be able to work. Then the other thing that is critical is that during this particular period, the focus is not just on activity that the employees need to carry out. Before now, you say you need to report in the morning at 8 a.m., we close at 5. So because we are working remotely, the focus is on outcomes. What do you want them to deliver? Okay. So you focus on what you want them to deliver, ensure that what you want them to deliver is very clear. They know what it is and they're able to deliver. So it's either done or not done. I usually tell my team that what I expect you to do is not to report to me work in progress. Well, I'm not really interested in work in progress. I'm interested in the task or the outcome has been delivered or not delivered. So these are some of the things that organizations need to focus on with regard to remote working to ensure that it's actually working for them. Not that you have people who are out there doing so much, but you don't know what they are really doing because you're not seeing the impact on your business.
Yeah, thank you. You took the word out of my mouth because I was also going to ask, in terms of how, I think somebody also dropped it in the comment section in the last session, saying they may not be fans of micromanaging employees, but sometimes one needs some of those tools to actually measure the employee's performance in this era that we're in. Coming to Tolu, in yesterday's session, I recall a question came up from a participant, and the person asked about learning solutions for adult learners. At first glance, I thought to myself, the name of the game is evolve or go extinct. It's all about unlearning and relearning. But then again, I realized we have artificial intelligence at one end of the spectrum. Why not bring it into the learning environment to fast track the learning process? So what's the role and impact of AI on learning or adult learning, as we want to put it?
All right, thank you very much, Yomi. So that question is a very nebulous question because there are many aspects to learning. Across the learning cycle, you've got your needs analysis, you've got your learning design, delivery, and evaluation. In today's world, I personally think we need to rethink that cycle and maybe include a stage called learning dissemination or something like that prior to delivery. But I believe AI will transform pretty much every area of learning, and I think it's going to happen very, very quickly. And we've started to see this happen. So right now, I think the days of physical classroom training as the default mode are over. I think any organization who still sees that as the primary way to deliver learning is probably going to be behind the times. So we're quickly shifting towards modes like this. So being able to deliver virtual learning. So I think one of the first areas to think about really is just think the possibility of virtual trainers where you can log into a virtual class like this and the trainer is a robot. They've got the slides, they've got voice, you can ask questions, they can facilitate group sessions. Think about it this way. You can already chat with robots in customer services. I think one of the panelists earlier, I think it was Sterling Bank, that said they already have, chat bots in their organization already. So it's a little step further to be able to incorporate that into training and make or start to think about how sort of virtual trainers can begin to exist. So you don't necessarily now need to have 50, 60, 70 people in a classroom. You can have much smaller classes with much more interactivity, and you're moving now from the classic sage on a stage approach, according to Alison King in her 1993 work, where the trainer is seen as the person with all the learning that transfers it onto to the learner. Now the trainer is now more of a guide. Is somebody needs to train the machine. Somebody needs to figure out all the various scenarios, all the various questions that could be asked, and we can start to see that happening in a lot of different places. So the question people might tend to ask me now is, what would happen to the job of the trainer? Well, somebody needs to train the machine, and there's a lot of that already happening in lots of different places. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is, there's a lot of talk around personalized learning, and the question I always ask is, how do you personalize at scale? You've got thousands of employees. How do you give individuals what they need based on their own unique situations, their experience, their learning style, their knowledge levels, and so on. So just think of Netflix. Think of Netflix right now. Netflix use machine learning to recommend movies and TV shows that their users watch. And I think about 80% of all shows watched Netflix is based on the recommendations that they make. Now, on the surface, it seems very simple, like simple predictive analytics, but at a deeper level, all the algorithms have been trained to look for subtle cues, including what are people likely to click on, what sort of images attracts this person, the genres and that people like. And with data, as Emmanuel was saying earlier, we already have a lot of data that we can tap into. And with things like machine learning, you can start to build models and train models to learn the patterns that can successfully predict successful outcomes. Just to give you an example, a real practical example right now. So I'm working with a large organization in the UK. We're building a 18-month digital learning program, and we've developed courses like data analysis and business analysis, a standard path, to get an employee from not knowing a lot to being experienced. However, one of the key requirements of the client is to make sure that the learning is personalized, because we have learners who are apprentices who have literally come out of school. And then we've got learners who have been working in the business for 20 years without any formal qualification. We've got learners who are gurus in Excel, and some who literally don't know how to create a spreadsheet. So having that at the back of your mind, well, how do you personalize the learning? So one of the things that we did is we onboarded learners, did a skills review, and we kind of mapped the current skill level to sort of predefined classes of data so that we can drip feed the learning that's needed and kind of tailor it to the organization's own unique situations. And I think one of the things that HR kind of suffers from is not being able to justify the business benefits of these kinds of technologies. And it's a no-brainer if typically I think with this particular client they would have needed about 7 full-time staff to support a program for one person. Now we can cut that right down to like 3. And for that particular client, they save about £800,000 per year. So those kinds of situations are now kind of making organizations look to artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I think those days are already here. And organizations that can leverage those kinds of technologies will be able to compete in the marketplace today. And I think for me, being able to have a learner management system that supports things like machine learning. And by the way, machine learning is already there. If you have MS Azure or AWS, those applications are already there. It's really about the organization's appetite to understand what they need, build and deploy models and train models and learn from the feedback that they're getting from the users. Yeah.
Okay.
That's my take.
All right. I will come back to, I know some of the questions will may center around how compatible is it within in the local context, but I'll come back to that question. But going to Bunmi, so what advice would you give companies using to leverage on technology to fast track change based on our new reality?
I would advise companies to embrace technology more, because that's the future. I mean, Tolu just gave a practical example of how a client is able to save about £800 per annum for just one training session for one individual. Now, I mean, you can multiply that by the total number of employees, for example, that an organization would have. Technology will drive business growth because the world is a global village, and the clients that we serve or the customers that we serve, they're all over the world. Most businesses now don't just appeal to a local clientele, depending on what exactly you're selling. And so if you don't have a platform where your customers can sort of engage with you online, and you have technology that will drive, easy access or easy accessibility of your product or your service by those customers, then you would really, really be behind. So I would say organizations should sort of be very, what's the word now? Should engage technology, and should also be willing to try, a couple. Of course, leverage on those that have worked, depending on the industry that you are in. So find out what technology other companies have used in that sort of industry and has been successful. Sometimes also when you are deploying new technology, there's a lot of resistance, there, because it's change, and people typically may not want to embrace change quickly. So beyond just saying, oh, we are bringing this thing in as a new thing, people need to also understand why and how it helps them and how it will benefit them. Emmanuel has spoken a lot, for example, about how technology sort of improves the HR process. And that's just one department in an entire organization. So from recruitment, to assessments, to performance management, to onboarding, I heard Tolu say, oh, he used to deliver onboarding training to people, and then, I mean, that can be done online now in whatever part of the world, and you sort of shorten that process as against bringing 10 teachers to a class, to take 100 students that you will provide various things for, so you're also able to reskill and upskill your talent, within the workspace. And also you can use technology to predict the future. So if you have gathered the data on certain parameters for your organization or for a process within your team or for your functionality, and you've seen how that particular process has panned out in, say, year 2018, it gives you an idea of what you should expect in 2019. So data can even enable you to know, which employee is already sort of jaded with the system, which employee is already ready to move to another unit, for example, if you churn that data properly. So businesses really need to be very open-minded with technology now, because it really is the future. Yomi?
Yeah.
You still
Sorry.
okay.
We are actually running short of time. There's a question on blockchain I need to ask. But due to time, let me go to Emmanuel. We talk about these fanciful things, AI, gamification technologies, machine learning. But in our local context, many people believe these technological tools are adopted by companies whose budget on employee development is greater than the expense of raw materials. Nigeria, for instance, is powered by small businesses whose priorities are focused on immediate results. They don't have the financial runway to invest in these technological tools. So what would be your advice to provide solutions for small businesses?
Okay, so there are these technology tools that are available to big organizations are actually available also to small organizations. So what I've also discovered is that if you search enough, you'll be able to find alternatives that are available to us at a next to nothing. Say, for instance, this Zoom that we're using today, okay? There is the free version. So if you're a small business, you should be able to use the free version. Yes, maybe when you are using it for your call or for your meeting, you have a 40-minute duration if the participants are more than 3, okay? Or more than 2. But if it's just 2 of you, you can go for as long as you want. But if there are 3 of you and above, it means that every 40 minutes you need to reconnect. So because you are small, you then need to try to see how you can maximize the potential of that this technology for collaboration and for your meetings. Okay, several other tools that you can use. You can use even WhatsApp, Telegram. I discovered you have opportunity to have chatbots on WhatsApp and Telegram. So somebody sends you a message, the WhatsApp is able to respond, and they've even gone advanced such that you can have maybe an FAQ. Someone asks a question, as soon as they put in the question, the WhatsApp app or the Telegram app is able to respond. So there are certain things you can do without necessarily investing so much money to be able to achieve. Then if you think about maybe you need, say, software such as Slack, okay? You can use software such as Slack to collaborate with your people. You can use it to carry out induction, and you can spend next to nothing, okay, in using this technology. So I think small startups and small companies, what they need to do is to try to investigate alternative softwares that are available. Say, for instance, I also discovered there are some email tools you can use, okay, that will provide you access to your emails for free instead of spending so much money to pay for licenses. If you are just 5 of you in that organization, you can host your email for free. The major thing will be for you to ensure that you've registered your domain and all that. So several technologies are available that small organizations can use. I don't think we should start looking at the issue being capital or the money that you need to put in to be able to adopt some of these technologies. Find the one that is right for you, that are available for small organizations to be able to deploy. I remember there was a time I was helping an organization implement an invoicing tool, okay? I wanted to discover that you can actually have that invoicing tool implemented, and they're able to collect payments at no costs at all to that particular, and it's offered for free. So if you want maybe some additional features that will enable you to get some reporting, then you pay something small. So tools are out there, several of them that can help small organizations adopt these things. And then when you see the output, you think that, wow, this is a very big organization. It's actually one man or two people that are driving this particular operation. So capital should not be a hindrance. If you have the idea, I believe that the money will follow and come for you to be able to implement those things.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. I think you really did justice to that question. We've had quite a number of questions pop up relating to that, because small businesses usually struggle with that. And I hope out of the close to 100 participants in this session, at least if we have a representation from small businesses, I think that's valuable advice. We have quite a number of questions in the Q&A section, but let me just ask the final question, and I'll channel this to Tolu. It's about culture. Now, they say culture eats strategy for breakfast and probably HR tech for lunch. So what's your advice to companies looking at integrating new technologies? How should they approach this in relation to their culture?
Okay, thank you very much, Yomi. So I don't know if my answer will be specific to culture in the sense of Nigerian culture, or if you mean culture in the organizational sense of the word. But I've been helping organizations implement technology for many years, and we know that when it comes to implementing technology, enabled business change, communication and culture is probably some of the biggest challenges. So the reason a lot of projects fail is because of communications and because of culture. And I think it's important for an organization to firstly adopt best practice when it comes to implementing IT-enabled business change. And I know somebody mentioned earlier, don't just adopt best practice and have a cookie cutter approach, but tailor it to your specific environment. And I think one of the, I'm going to give you five, or the audience listening, 5 stages to implementing IT-enabled business change. And this is based on the work of Sham Mawani from Henley Business School. So he suggests that the first stage when it comes to implementing IT-enabled business change is to first seek alignment. This stage kind of requires senior leadership teams within organizations to understand the impact of the technology change on their organization as a whole, the impact on the strategy, the impact on the business environment, both the internal environment and the external factors. Understand the impact of the change on your culture. So culture is simply, how do you do things around there? Is this new system going to be adapted to by your team, your people? So it's understanding the factors within your organization and make sure that there's appetite for that change and there's the clear business benefits to be achieved from implementing that IT-enabled business change. That's kind of the first stage. Understand the alignment. Is this thing going to work for us? Do we have the appetites? Do we have the environment for us to be able to implement this into? And then define the business improvements. So it's not just implementing Salesforce, or implementing CRM Dynamics, or implementing this software because everybody is doing it. It's understand what are the business outcomes you wish to achieve within your organization. Is it better employee retention? Is it better customer satisfaction? Or better or increased revenue? What are the business improvements you want to achieve? So define the business improvements. That's the second stage. And then the third stage, once you're clear about what you want to achieve from this IT implementation or this change project, then design the change by making sure you adopt a holistic approach. Look at how the change will impact on your people, your structure of your organization, the processes, the information that you hold, and the technology. So for technology, for example, can you support the system? Do you have a maintenance agreement with the supplier? Do you have IT people that will help solve any problems if this thing fails? So understand the impact on your technology. Will it even work within your environments? Understand your people. impact of the technology on your people, would you need to train them? Would you need to reskill them? Would you need to motivate them? Would there be jobs lost? You want to understand that. So you want to design the change, plan for it. You know, everybody likes change, except nobody likes change if it's done to them. Everybody thinks change is a constant thing, and we like change, but not when it's done to you. So understand what the impact of change will be on your people. And then the fourth stage is to go through the implementation. So when implementing IT or any sort of IT-enabled business change, you want to understand how this will happen. Will it be in a sort of big bang approach, or will it be an incremental drip feed of features? What will be the implementation strategy? And how will your people feel at the end of the day? So, you know, are you going to have to sort of change people's jobs? Are you going to have to reskill people and move them into a different area? So all of these kind of needs to be included when implementing IT-enabled business change. But then don't just stop there. Go back to the beginning and realize any business benefits you might have identified in the first or second stage. What did you want to achieve? Did you get it? Did you increase your customer satisfaction? Did you increase revenue after 3 months? Did you improve employee retention over a period? So you want to be able to realize business benefits. So when it comes to implementing business change, understand that it's about alignment and making sure that everything that you do should be driven by a business case. And if everything is aligned that way, then you'll have successful implementation. And it shouldn't, and it would include, you know, that understanding of culture within your organization from the very first stage, rather than getting to the end and realizing that it doesn't quite work for you or it doesn't quite fit into your organization strategy. So those are my 5 stages. The first one, alignment, definition of the business improvement, designing the change, implementing, and then realizing benefits.
Okay. We've actually run out of time, and the questions keep coming up. I'll just take one question from the audience, and I will direct this to Mrs. Akano. It comes from Dunke, and he asks, how do we manage an employee whose performance is a challenge during the period of work from home?
Okay, I don't know who is trying to manage now. Maybe I don't know whether he's HR or he is the direct line manager, you know, but what I would say first is that expectations need to be very much clarified. I remember Emmanuel said specifically something that he tells his team: I don't need you to carry me along on this project. I just need you to, you know, so the expectations need to be clearly clarified. If I usually don't counsel giving up on employees so quick, especially if you haven't done quite a bit of documentation. You don't have a bit of docu-trail around that. And docu-trail does not mean queries, please. Docu-trail basically means, you know, performance discussions, expectation discussions, and then documenting it to the person, and the person saying, oh yes, I agree to this and I'm going to deliver this, especially in the case of a poor performer or someone that is not really pulling their weight. So you want to make sure that even after discussing with the person, you document it, so that if you don't see an improvement in maybe 6 months, you are able to, you have some clear reference point that you can show HR. Remember, HR may not be sitting with the line manager right there when all that poor performance is going on. So rather than just going to HR and say, oh, this person is not doing well, this person is not doing well at all, you know, just from the blues, let's see a trail around that. But specifically for remote work, because that question specifically said this person is not performing, you know, during this remote working. So did this start during the remote working? Was the person like this? Was the person like so before remote work started? So if the person was not this way when we're working physically in the offices and this has just come up, you need to start to ask why. Now, this change has affected all of us in various ways. And some of us are actually having, people are different. So some people have emotional reactions, emotional triggers, and they have not really come out of what COVID means to them, how COVID has affected them. People have home situations that they are dealing with, real life home situations. Maybe it could be anything personal. It could be something with the spouse. It could be something with the children. People are rediscovering their families during this time. So is that the reason why this employee is not performing well, or is this person just it's just a poor performer? It's just a poor performance. So I always counsel that line managers and HR, line managers specifically, because HR can be everywhere, should try and have an emotional connection to their team members. Very, very, very important. People will give of themselves when they know that you would also give of your own self to them. So there has to be some deposit of value, from the line manager to the team members' expectation. So ask questions, ask clarifying questions beyond setting the objective and the goal of what you want the person to do. Ask questions around the person's challenges. So show interest, what's going on with you? I've noticed that, your delivery has been poor during this. Is there any way I can support you? What can I do? Because if you don't ask those kind of questions and you just say, oh, this person is not delivering, it becomes a problem. But if you've done and you've asked all those questions and you have supported the person, you've given the person internet, you're not saying the person should deliver when you have not provided internet for the person, because I've been hearing some horrible things during this work from home. So employees are having to use their own personal money for data. No, if the person works for an organization, the organization has to set up that infrastructure. So if you've given the employee all the infrastructure the person needs, and you have also provided emotional support and psychological support to the employee, and you have a trail of all this, and there is now still no improvement, then we now have to start to have deep conversations with the person. But what I would say is there has to be some emotional connection. Questions need to be asked. People are going through stuff. People have also lost people. People have lost people. People have died. So you don't know really. So if you don't ask this question, then you may not be. And then maybe also the person's salary has been reduced. So, real life scenarios are really going on right now. So connect first with that employee. Find out what the reason is. And if you can improve on that, go ahead. If not, then you have to take that conversation to a higher level. That would be my own answer.
Okay, let me just add something to summarize what she has just said on that. What has worked for me in managing productivity for remote employees, there's just a simple 3-stage to it. So what we've been able to implement is that on a Monday, each week, we need to agree the expectation with this particular employee as a line manager. So it's the line manager's responsibility to ensure that they agree expectation each week, what needs to be delivered for that particular week. So you have a one-on-one meeting with your team members. Then every evening, ask them to send you progress report of what they have done, okay, or what they are doing with regard to that expectation for that particular week. And then by the end of the week, have a general meeting using your collaborative tool. In this case, we use Zoom, to talk to everyone. Now, say for instance, you have 3 people working with you. So on Monday, you have one-on-one 30 minutes, not more than 30 minutes, agree the expectation with the first person, hop onto the next call with the next person, hop onto the call with the third person, and we have agreed this is what we need to deliver for the week. So every evening they send you a report. Okay? Then on Friday, the 4 of you now come up on this call to review what is it that we've agreed to achieve, and then prepare for the following week. And during all these meetings, especially the Monday and the weekly action review meeting, which we'll carry out on Friday, make sure that everyone switches on their video, okay? They should all switch on their video so that you'll be able to see the expression. And then when you start these meetings, I think the first thing to do is to try to find out how they are, okay? Ask them, how are you? Try to know if they have any challenge before we now move in to the work. So this has worked for me. So it's easy because you've broken down the expectations to a weekly deliverable. And it makes it easy for you to see if this person is having challenges to deliver or not, and then you can address those challenges. So this has worked. I believe some other organizations is also working. So you can try to adopt this method, and I believe that it's going to work for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mano. honestly, we could go on and on for 48 hours. Even if we're giving 48 hours, it will never be enough. There's quite overwhelming questions coming in, but I can't take it at this point. However, we'll send it to the speakers who will respond, and we will channel the responses back to, the origin of the questions. Thank you very much, Tolu, for your time. Thank you very much, Bunmi, for joining us. And thank you very much, Emmanuel. It's been a big honor having all of you at this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Emmanuel.
Yeah.
Bye, Emmanuel. Thanks, Tolu.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And Yomi, thank you.
Take care. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Yomi.
Yes. To our audience, thank you for keeping up with us all through the journey. It's been a long marathon over the last 48 hours. The recordings of all the sessions will be made available on our site, which you can visit www.hrtechng.com/conference. Closing, I just want to thank the organizers of this program, HR Tech NG, Fifth Quadrant, the Resource HQ, and Annual Lab. You guys have been fantastic. Also wish to thank all our speakers for making out time of their busy schedules. It's not easy to, get in this category of speakers within a short period, but really want to thank all of you, and we really appreciate. In closing, the thinking behind this conference was that we realized all nations were searching for answers. We all have gone into reset mode, and in times of crisis, new leaders are born. Bringing this into the context of our nation, and using this analogy, we are all in a vehicle on an interesting journey. In order to get to our desired destination, we can't drive forward using our rearview mirror. All hands must be on deck for the journey ahead. As the economy begins to open up, though at snail speed, we can't go back to pre-pandemic ways. This is an opportunity to leverage on our competitive advantage as a nation. And as Yomi Aobuku mentioned, our human capital is our greatest resource. And we are the subject matter experts in this field in terms of managing our human capital. So this is a really heroic time for all HR professionals to lead the change, because we have become heroic leaders of the response in our various organizations and also our nation. We trust this conference has added value to everyone. Kindly watch our space for new initiatives to be rolled out over the next couple of months. Before signing out, we wish to also acknowledge the team, organizing team, the backend staff, Tokumbo Akintola, Larry Shokeyo, and also the HR members. We have Iswat Olajiga, Tayo Saba, Femi Kuti, Rotimi Lijofi, Idowu Kuti, Emmanuel Michael, and myself. On behalf of everyone, I say stay safe and stay blessed.